Good morning. Things look pretty normal around here, don't they? Here's my ditch. Pretty much dry as a bone. You should have seen this place 12 hours ago. That was pretty much a lake out there. I have water up to the rims on my car. It was one of the worst flash floods I'd ever seen, and I've been here a long time. The situation actually began about 36 hours ago when we got an inch of rain. Now, I can't complain about an inch of rain. It took about 2 hours to get an inch, and it was just perfect. Great, turned everybody's yard green. But this is crazy ground. There's bedrock not too deep in all of this area. And I live sort of like in a depression. The terrain goes from here uphill for over a mile into Old Nightdale. This way it goes uphill for about a mile, and over that way it's a gentle slope, but it's still generally uphill for about a half mile. The only downhill would be that way. So I'm sort of like in a funnel here. That 1 inch of rain we had yesterday, 36 hours ago, was just enough to get this ground saturated. Then last night, 3.5 inches of rain in less than an hour. This was crazy. Water was coming off that hill. You can't see it from here, but there's a little culvert, maybe a 6-inch culvert that goes underneath that little trail. Water was shooting out of that like a fire hydrant turned on high. This was completely flooded. The water, I got this transfer pump sitting on an 8-inch block, and the water was more than halfway over that pump within 30 minutes. Of course, my pool got totally filled up. But today we're going to go down and check on my ram pump. It took me years to find a way up to the headquarters of my creek. I could always go up to the headwaters of it if I waded through the creek, which was a big chore, because if I tried going through the woods, I'd come across situations like this. Just for no reason at all, there might be a 50-foot ravine. And there's dozens of these things. And it's really jungly. It's hard to penetrate these woods. But finally, I found a way where I could get around this maze of just real short but deep ravines, which are caused by flash floods because of the water can't penetrate deep in the ground here. It just goes down a couple of feet and it hits bedrock. I marked me a path through here with these pink ribbons, and over the past 6 months or so I've cleared out this area, defoliated it, came in here with a sling blade and a machete and pretty much cleared it off where the path is now pretty visible. I don't have to rely on the ribbons. But let me walk over here. I'll give you an example of how this place is. Just dry ground, but yet here's one of these little sinkholes almost, a little ravine full of water. I chose to put my ram pump at the headwaters of this creek because the creek is prone to flash flooding. Even though there are ravines that run into my creek, 99% of the time they're bone dry. But when it does rain hard, all those little ravines start shedding the water into my creek. And the creek only runs for about 1,000 feet before it comes to a road with a culvert. But there's dozens of these tiny ravines between here and downstream 1,000 feet. And the water can go from 2 inches to 8 feet very quickly. All through the forest floor, there's things like this. You know what that is? That's a crawfish chimney. Yeah, there's hundreds of them all through here. There's live crawfish living in all these holes. I bet they enjoyed the flood yesterday. Like I said, this situation began about 36 hours ago when we got the first inch of rain. And I immediately after the rain stopped, I walked down here to the creek to check on my pump. And the water was only about 2 inches deeper in this part of the creek than normal. But yesterday evening, after we got the 3.5 inches of rain, I walked down here and couldn't even see my pump. The water was at least 5 foot deep here. Let's see what kind of mess we have. This is chaos. My sandbags have disappeared. My ram pumps have moved. I had them tied down with cinder block. They've moved 6 feet. When I came down here yesterday evening, right after the flood, the water was right up here to the edge to the rim of this ditch you see here. My ladder was halfway submerged. Well, the good thing is that I can see the pressure tanks on both of my ram pumps I had installed down here, so at least I'll be able to retrieve that. And maybe my PVC pipe, even though it's completely been moved, perhaps it's not broken, maybe just bent U-shaped. So we're going to go down in here today and remove all this from the creek. I had everything. My intake was right up there. That's like a little spring pool, although it is it's also fed by a runoff. When I came down here yesterday evening, that looked like Niagara Falls. I mean, water was just blasting through there. It would have been a dangerous situation for anyone to even get near that. Well, let's get started. I think the easiest thing to do would be just to try to get my drive pipe out of the way first. Look at all this sand that accumulated last night. Let's see what's left of my drive pipe. Warm some of the sand off and see what we're doing. Okay, there's my intake. Even though my drive pipe is bent like a big U, I don't even have to do any cutting here. I think I can just stretch this out and throw it up on the shore. Well, I got one of the drive pipes and the siphon out of the creek. This second drive pipe here is still miraculously connected to my ram pump. But rather than mess around with taking that union off, I think I'm just going to cut the drive pipe right here and get it out of the way. I have plenty of connections I could glue onto it when I reinstall this thing. Yeah. I think this is going to work out all right. Well, I'm missing a big part of the siphon. I'm missing the siphon filter on this, but that's not the end of the world. Yeah, this is not nearly as bad as I dreaded. I had 2 ram pumps down here, but I had them connected together to one delivery line with this thing. It's a wash machine hose. So it was very easy for me to go from each ram pump down to one single delivery line. Okay, this is easy enough. I'm just going to unscrew all this. And I see my delivery line is still here. It's important to always tie your stuff down. If it wasn't for these cinder blocks, I don't know what would have become of this situation. Alright, I'm going to untie these things from the cinder block. Got both ram pumps up on dry land for now, but we're expecting another 2 inches of rain this afternoon. So, trust me, everything's going to be on high ground before this day's over. That leaves me with a delivery line down here. And I'm certainly not going to leave this dangling in the creek. We'll come over here and tie it up to this tree root. Maybe put those cinder blocks on top of it to help keep it in place. I just tied those 2 cinder blocks together with about a 12-inch connecting line there between them. That way, if they do get washed downstream, they're not going to go far. They'll get tangled up in these roots or something. This is the rusted out bottom of an old burn barrel. I was using this as a platform for my ram pump. It got washed downstream a little bit. Get this out of the way. All this is going up on higher ground though. And I can see the outline, the silhouette of 4 different sandbags here. These are the ones that were sitting up on top of the rock over there. I'm just going to leave them right where they are. Hopefully I can find another couple down in this slough when the water recedes a little bit more. Yeah, that's a lot of trouble when you start lugging sandbags up and down a creek. This creek, over the thousands and thousands of years, has wore this thing down to solid bedrock. I tried securing my delivery line with some rebar. I could not find a single place between here and the road where I could drive the spike in more than an inch. The only thing sitting above the bedrock is beach sand. It's just like an Atlantic beach coastline right here. And this stuff shifts. I don't even know where it comes from. But it's exactly like coastal sand. Perfect for some project. I know it's perfect for filling sandbags. Okay, maybe that's all we're going to do down here this morning other than get the stuff moved up. Let me come over here and look at one more silhouette. Yeah, I think this is another sandbag right here. It's gotten covered up with all this sand from last night. Look at that, just a little tit sticking up. Everything else completely buried in sand. I wish I had a better place to put my pumps, but I've been from one end of this creek to the other, and this is absolutely the best. Yeah, I can see a little bit of water coming down through this ravine. Usually that's dry as a bone. There's little things like that that would be all the way down this creek for the next 1,000 feet. And then you get a flash flood and they fill up. Alright, Mr. Creek, that's it for today. I'll give this a couple of days to get back to normal and then come back down here. I might just take advantage of this opportunity to haul all this up to my house and do some testing, some more ram pump testing. I made a video last March of 2021, about what's the best ram pump design, but I failed to include anything about pump pressure and back pressure. I think we need to make a video about that, using different types of check valves and stuff. So that'll be something fun we can do this week. It's fascinating how something that looks this docile can suddenly just become a raging rapid. Those big rocks there were not visible yesterday evening. There was a foot or two of water just boiling across the top of them. You could not see any of the rock. It was just horrible white rapids going across there. So I figured that could happen sooner or later. That's why I keep everything pretty much tied down with sandbags and ropes, cinder blocks. Even my ladder is secured to these roots. I'm glad I did that, because last night the water was more than halfway up this ladder. I have it set at 12 feet. So the water from the bottom of the ladder was 6 feet deep right here.